5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I got a huge show for you guys tonight, and you might be wondering, hey, there's somebody in the chair next to me. Well, we're going to be talking some Alien Romulus tonight, and I need a big crew because I got to make sure I survive. So, I'm not wearing a red shirt. We're good. I'm staying far away from the eggs and any black goo that's out there. What he doesn't know is that he's drinking the black goo right now. But, ladies and gentlemen, you might have seen him on some previous Fandom Podcast Network stuff. It's been a while since he's been back in the podcast form, and we are glad to have him. He reached out to me because he is so excited to talk some Alien Romulus tonight. He is the one and only Matt Clifton.
I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
That's going to sum up this whole podcast, and we've got a huge one. Not only are we talking Alien Romulus and buy it, stream it, or unsee it, we've got some fandom news. We got other films to talk about and buy it, stream it, and see it. And we're going to continue our spotlight on time travel because it is the year of time travel here at the Fandom Podcast Network. And we're going to be talking about the 1979 classic Time After Time. I have a whole new appreciation for Jack the Ripper, but I need a top-notch crew. And I can see right now I already have one that probably is not going to make it through the entire show because he's already been infected. He's gestating now. He, of course, is the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. His wife probably put this on his face intentionally. Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
I'm having a moment. Give me a second.
You're not supposed to be able to talk when that's on, when that's there.
What's up, buddy? Matt, good to see you, brother. Missed ya.
Missed you guys.
Yeah. Oh, can't wait to get into Romulus, which is going to be fun.
Kevin, are you sure? Does Aaron know you let the face hugger out of its cage?
She's not supposed to know.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They call him creepy. Of course, if we're going to be talking about movies, we have to have the queen of movie food here, the one and only Lacey Adderhold.
Hello.
What's up, Lacey? Welcome.
Hello. I'm very excited. It's going to be good.
Now, Lacey, I know you have an orange cat at home.
I do.
So much like Ripley, is the cat warning you of any xenomorph activity or things are maybe not in a place they're supposed to be?
No, but I have decided that she's going to have all of the costumes. She's already been tolerating dresses and little onesies. So I feel like there's going to be an alien jumpsuit at some point. I'm not super sure how it's going to go over, but I'm digging the idea.
I feel like Jonesy the cat and the cat that was in A Quiet Place Day One were the smartest animals ever.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's fair. Now, too, we always have to have an android or a synthetic life form on the ship. We've done some digital reimaging for this. It probably won't end well for him either, but ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful John Mosby is here as well. He's probably going to make sure I have the whole head by the end of this podcast.
I have the PG version of it. The PG version. It's the tickle me face hugger.
Kevin, John, you owe Kevin $10. First, John wrote the wonderful Fearful Cemetery, the essential guide to all things Highlander. So probably half of us will be beheaded before this podcast is over tonight. Now, guys.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there it is. First of all, you are watching Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We thank you all so much for joining us, whether you are watching live on YouTube. And if you are, please join in the chat. Give us your thoughts. We've got a lot of fun things to talk about. And, of course, if you're listening on to the audio podcast, that's wonderful as well. Just make sure you give us a like, a subscribe, share us out, because especially this episode, we're going to have a lot of fun. But before we even get into anything like that, we have some other interesting things happening on the Fandom Podcast Network. And, Kevin, I'm going to let you talk about what's going on over at Union Federation because you have started something that's turned into something.
Yeah, we are celebrating Star Trek The Next Generation, and we are doing a limited podcast series on all the Star Trek Next Generation 2-part episodes. There was a total of 8 of them. And we're going to deep dive into the story and how they impacted Star Trek in general and in fandom and So it's been a lot of fun getting back into these. And the most recent one we have that dropped as of this recording was Unification, Part 1 and 2, The Return of Spock. And we got some other great ones coming up as well. We opened up with Best of Both Worlds with the Borg, and then we did Redemption with Worf and his Klingon situation there. And we got a lot more coming up. All the great 2-part episodes will be on the Fandom Podcast Network Union Federation podcast.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job with that, with the crazy crew of the Union Federation. But we also, of course, the time warp continues. It is the year of time travel here at the Fandom Podcast Network. And we are getting ready to release here in a few days Time Warp 1984. We've been doing all the movies. August, a huge month, surprisingly huge month for some pretty well-known films, Kevin. And how many? Are you up to 4 copies of Sheena now?
Yeah, now we've got 4 of these. Sheena, full frontal nudity movie, rated PG back in 1984. Go figure.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got, and of course, Lacey, you joined us for this as well. We had some great movies here, including Buckaroo Banzai, Red Dawn, and one of your all-time favorites, Lacey, Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger. Jack Flack always survives.
Such a fun movie.
Are we bringing back any movie memories for you here, John?
I'm very old and very feeble, but yes, yes, I seem to remember. I seem to remember seeing Sheena all those years and years ago. But no, yes, a lot of those Buckaroo Banzai, of course. Red Dawn. I'm just looking at that as well. Wow, the first successful Wolverines movie. Cloak and Dagger, Sheena, Dreamscape. I did like Dreamscape.
Yeah. John, we do have to ask you one question because we bring this up in Time Warp. Chud is one of the movies on the cover of this. Well, I want to see if you agree with us. You can only be renting 10 movies in your store, but because you're a video rental store, you're required to have a copy of Chud for rental.
Listen, it's true. I used to work in a video store, a bit like Quentin Tarantino all those years ago. Our careers have obviously been in parallel ever since. But yes, it is true. I think I had to sign a legal agreement that we had at least 1 copy of Chud. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been at all times.
That will be hitting the Fandom Podcast Network. If you're watching this live on YouTube by Friday, that will be out on the Fandom Podcast Network. Go back and relive some movies of 1984. And of course, Kevin, you got some hair metal that is coming out very soon on the Fandom Podcast Network.
Yeah, my buddy Mike, who's the co-host of my Hair Metal podcast, brought in his buddies who we call the Hair Metal Council. And we had them all on talking about the best cover songs by hair metal era bands. And we had quite a list of about 35 to 40 songs, and we narrowed it down to our top 10.
Yeah. And this is going to be, I'm very interested in that too, but we're going to get, are we starting the podcast over again, guys? Oh, wait, it's just Edge of Tomorrow. Of course, it is your time travel here at the Fandom Podcast Network. And we just recently, our most recent Couch Potato Theater, Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, or Repeat, or All You Need Is Kill. This was a great podcast. John, do you have any thoughts on Edge of Tomorrow?
I did like that. I was honestly surprised that all that talk of a sequel didn't transpire more quickly, though I don't really know if it's going to be simply, no pun intended, a rerun of the first. I don't know what else you do. But I did enjoy it, and I know various people who aren't fans of Tom Cruise who kind of liked it as well, maybe just because he died so many times. But we
discussed that in the... We discussed that in the podcast of how many times he died in the manner he died. It was a fun discussion.
Yes. Yes.
Are you in on the Edge of Tomorrow, Matt?
I am. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie.
Emily Blunt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, too, coming up on Couch Potato Theater, we are going to start our look at the films of James Cameron. And the first one we'll be doing is True Lies, one of all Cameron's all-time greats. And then later on, towards the end of September, we will also be doing The Abyss, which is one of my favorite Cameron movies, as long as you can cut out about the last 5 minutes of the ship coming up from the water. We'll talk about that. But that is going to be a lot of fun, and we will be doing more James Cameron films before the year is out as well. And of course, this is Culture Clash. We are continuing our look at time travel with this episode, as we're going to be talking about a classic 1979 release, Time After Time. A little H.G. Wells, a little Jack the Ripper. We're going to have some fun here, guys. but we've got some other things to get into, including some news. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Let's news.
and as you can see there, the dad joke is in. Kevin, is the Lethal Mullet with us?
Adam O'Brien is in the house. What's up, brother? Host of the Lethal Mullet podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network.
And if you notices, Adam, we have a Matt Clifton sighting here in the house in the Florida studios right now.
Yeah.
So, but we have some news to get to before we start talking about anything else. And there's been a few interesting pieces of news out there, but I think the biggest one that broke is The Acolyte. The Acolyte has officially been canceled by Disney Plus, but it's turning into a little even more than that, guys, because I did a little research right before we came on live. Not only has The Acolyte been canceled, all Acolyte merchandise has been removed from the online Disney store. I have a feeling Acolyte might be getting at least a partial Willow treatment. They may not pull it off of Disney Plus, but it sounds like, yeah, we don't really want this to exist here. I don't know. Kevin, we've had mixed feelings through our Acolyte rewatch through Culture Clash here. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not surprised by this decision.
Yeah, I guess. I wouldn't have been surprised if they did do a second season, but again, I'm not surprised though that it's been confirmed and canceled and stuff. And I wasn't a huge fan of the series. There was moments of it that I did like, and the thing that I'm kind of more bummed about though is I love the character that Manny played, the Stranger, and I thought he did the best interpretation of a Sith trying to explain to Jedi why he exists, and that was one of my favorite moments of the series.
I'm hoping that his character somehow is carried on into something else. We'll see. John, what were your thoughts on The Acolyte? Did you watch it?
Yeah, same as Kevin, really. I'm just kind of surprised it was cancelled only because of it being Disney and Lucasfilm, and obviously nobody wants to admit defeat. A lot of money put into it, and I figured on principle it would probably get a second season. But yeah, it was one of those series, and I don't think I've seen a series like that I could say the same thing about. That on one hand, you could see where a huge amount of money had been spent, and then 5 minutes later, you could see where absolutely nothing had been spent. And to be watching an episode and go from that where there's great, spectacular cosmic vistas, and then you see a guy walking around with a metal detector that you could buy at your local hardware store, and badly pacing. There was so much that felt like it was nowhere near the final draft that it should have been before it made it to air, but some good ideas. So yeah, it felt like one of those things where, you could see what it could have been, and yet it was not even close to that. So a shame.
I think my hope is for it that they will take aspects of it, because there was good aspects of The Acolyte, and continue them in some other Disney, other Star Wars product. Because I think there's The Acolyte was one of those things, like you said, John. It was all kind of, just felt like it was all over the map all the time. But there were some great ideas in there that just didn't get fully executed. So we'll see what happens with Acolyte. Lacey, I know you probably hadn't watched it yet because I know you like to binge watch everything.
I do. I binge watch, but on basically the reason I stopped with the Disney, if they're not going to provide me with physical media, I'm not going to watch their shows. I want to be able to, I want content. I want behind the scenes. I want bloopers and commentaries. I think that's me. Like, that's my thing. Right. So if you're talking about, it's not that I'm not going to watch it streaming. It's that I want all that other information. And a lot of times they like, for instance, they put Loki season 1 out. They didn't put Loki season 2 out. I'm a completion, like I'm a completist, right? So I need to see all of it at one before I'm going to get taken in and then be upset because they don't release the rest of it or whatever. So I kind of feel like I dodged a bullet on this one. It's one of those things where, it sounds like a lot of people are upset because there were, first of all, bad storytelling, but just the fact that it didn't have a chance to redeem itself is what I'm getting off of the internets. Because there were some recommendations that, things could have been fixed or whatnot. But yeah, So no, I have not seen it. I'm still trying to catch up on Andor and Bad Batch. I haven't seen Kenobi. Like I'm so yeah. It's yeah.
Scottish Geek Guys in the chat. He says, time after time, Alien Romulus, interesting double bill. He also says there will be another batch on D plus Steelbook, and Loki 2 will be part of it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
But I don't know that what are we talking about? Acolyte? I don't know. I don't even know what Acolyte's about. Is that the 3,000 years beforehand or something?
Yeah.
No.
At this point is now, Matt. Let me ask you real quick because we had a conversation. Actually, you haven't actually watched the Acolyte.
No,
yet.
I haven't. Not yet.
So
I'm with you, Matt. Got it.
So we'll see what happens with the Acolyte. But Kevin, I think the next news piece is especially for me and you. I'm kind of blown away by this. Nicholas Cage playing John Madden.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Well, Nick Cage definitely likes to dive into roles and change his appearance in many of his roles, and he's done that quite a bit. I'm surprised he was chosen, but as I see his getting ready, be prepared role here, taken by TMZ picture that we're showing here on YouTube, I'm like, okay, so he's diving full into this. And for those of you that don't know, John Madden isn't just a Madden video game. He is a Hall of Fame winning football coach, commentary, and he won a Super Bowl with the Oakland Raiders back in 1976. And then he went on, of course, did commentary, lots of commercials, very famous commercials. And then his video game has been one of the most popular video games of all time. Lacey.
Is that the last time they won Super Bowl?
83.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, this film is in line to be directed by David O. Russell, who, of course, did Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle. So interesting combination here. We'll see how this works. Nick Cage can be a chameleon. I just didn't figure him as John Madden. But we'll see.
If they need a filming location, the Raiders aren't in Oakland anymore, so they could still use that stadium before they tear it down.
Well, they better get moving quick, and the A season is almost over. So, and next up, this is something that I'm very happy about. I'm hoping it goes through. Legendary Pictures, who is obviously riding high off of the success of many kaiju films and the Godzilla Kong series, has announced that a Pacific Rim origin series is in the works from Eric Heisner. Eric Heisner is probably most famous for doing a couple of Netflix projects. He did Shadow and Bone and Bird Box. So this is a first look deal to possibly do a trilogy of prequel films for Pacific Rim. Kevin, we both love Pacific Rim. I am all in on this if this happens.
I like the idea of doing a origin series because, we get a little exposition by Charlie Hunnam from the first film. But it would be nice to actually see that happen in the destruction and everything that they have to go to and get into that. That would be interesting. So,
Lacey, were you a Pacific Rim fan?
Yes, I will watch Charlie Hunnam read a phone book. I mean, he's delightful. He's an amazing actor. He's easy on the eyes. He's good at so many different things. He's very much a chameleon. I loved Sons of Anarchy. So, big fan of Pacific Rim.
John, what about you? We've had, like I was saying, we've kind of had this big monster giant robot renaissance here the last few years, maybe culminating with Godzilla -1 as far as peak things. But Godzilla versus Kong did very well. It seems like this is a natural choice.
It's hard to go wrong with giant robots and monsters and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether it does anything new. I mean, I thought the look of the original Pacific Rim was, wonderful. Story-wise, it was okay. It didn't do as well as I thought it would do, because it did have all those factors. But it'll be something I would watch.
Was the first one Del Toro? That was
first one was Del Toro.
Yes. It was beautiful to look at. I thought, like the neon,
great in 3D too. Excellent in 3D.
Just give me my live action Robotech and Gundam movies, and I'll be really, really happy.
Come on already. Yeah. Jeez.
Okay, guys, with that's going to wrap up the news. Buy it, stream it, or unsee it. Yep, it is that time. Buy it, stream it, or see it, where we review films that have come out recently here in the world of fandom and tell you whether you should buy it when it comes out, just leave it for the streaming, or unsee it, or since we just talked a little Pacific Rim, go the Michael Morris route and just say, like with Pacific Rim Uprising, just completely unexistent. But
He said unmake it.
That's right. Unmake it. And we've got a few films we're going into. So, of course, when we talk about these films, especially our first film that we're going to discuss, there will be spoilers ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. Spoiler alert. And if we hear the alarm without the spoiler alert, somebody's probably not making it to the end of the podcast when we talk about our first upcoming film. But Kevin, too, we got to talk about our friends over at Letterboxd. What are you up to?
I've been keeping track of all the movies I've been watching from January 1st till December 31st. And as of January 1st, 2024, I am up to 267 films. And if I could add Scott Pilgrim versus the World more than once, I would have, but it won't allow me. So,
what? It doesn't equate for multiple viewings? Come on, guys. Update that app.
Well, you can update it your most recent date.
it won't allow me to add it.
Well, I'll have it twice. Have it like he's watched it twice.
Yes, but if you go in and change the date of your last viewing, it will put it up higher in your queue, so you'll see the order of your.
No, I want to see Scott Pilgrim versus the World in there like 3 or 4 times. That's what I want to see it.
Well, I mean, we all want things, Kevin.
There's what Kevin wants and what Kevin isn't going to get. So. Well, guys, we actually have a very special edition of Buy It, Stream It, or Unsee It, because we're going to dive a little bit more into a movie that just came released out, because a lot of people are talking about it. I actually haven't seen a movie generate this much conversation, an interesting conversation too, across the board in a while, especially when we're talking about a tentpole franchise film, and that film is Alien Romulus. This movie has come out. It is the movie that knocked Deadpool and Wolverine out of the #1 slot in the box office.
What?
Yes, it did. Believe it or not, it did knock it out. Fede Alvarez directed and wrote this film, and it is an interesting part of the Alien franchise because it actually takes place between Alien and Alien. So it's really time marked in there for the Alien franchise. Of course, our favorite xenomorphs are back. And we have a whole new crew, including an excellent leading lady in Kaylee Spaney, who I thought did a phenomenal job as her character, Rain. But before we get any deeper here, guys, I'm going to just kind of go around the room here. And Kevin, we'll start with you. And just
hit our guests first. I want our guests to jump in on it first.
Okay, well, then I'm going to throw it over to the guy sitting next to me, because I literally got texts like at 1 a.m. when he walked out of the film. He loved it.
He was pumping me.
Just this franchise has hurt me, but it's very near and dear to me. I saw the first 2 movies at an unhealthily young age, and they've always stuck with me. And this one just blew me away. It felt like coming home. Right from the opening shot with the ship and finding the nodule, the alien chrysalis and all that, it blew me away, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have a question for you guys: was Andy being an android, was that spoiled for you guys? Were you
Not
surprised?
for me. No.
I wasn't surprised by that at all.
I was completely surprised when I saw the white substance on the forehead. I was like, "Oh, he's an android. That's why he's twitchy." And the aliens looked fantastic, and the pulse rifle. I love the look of the pulse rifle, the older look and all that, and also kind of marrying the 2 best weapons from the franchise with the pulse rifle and the smart gun together as one weapon with the harness and the auto locking system. But yeah, I'm starting to see a pattern with Fede Alvarez's movies where things in the 3rd act just go totally ape crap.
That's great. And just two real quick, Matt, because there's something I want you to make sure you point out. Because you explained it to me when we talked about it. How much you love the technical side of this movie, just in the filmmaking aspect of it, between the music, just the look of it, and because you were you said that was probably your favorite part of the film.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. But I just loved the practical effects, the dirtiness of like the mining facility and all that, and the way the ships looked, and when the ships were in space and all that, it was very, very, very. One of my favorite games of all time is called Dead Space, and Dead Space takes a ton of references from Alien and is very, very Alien, and the way the ship looked and the horror elements of all that felt very much like Dead Space.
Yeah. John, did I see you sneak out an Echo Chamber article about Alien Romulus?
I did. It's very infrequent reviews at the moment, but I wanted to review this. I have very mixed feelings about it because I enjoyed watching it. It was not a waste of time. It wasn't the car crash that I think it could very, very easily have been, just from the early descriptions, of a very young cast put in a very similar situation to the Alien movie. I thought that could have been a car crash. It wasn't. But I couldn't help feeling that I wasn't sure why I liked a lot of what I did like. Was it because this movie was doing it really well, or was it because it was going through a greatest hit list of everything in the Alien franchise to date, a lot of which I liked? That is, I think, that's a common thing that seems to be in a lot of reviewers. It's one of the most unoriginal movies I've seen in a long time. But I enjoyed it because the cast were good, the production design was great. But I'm not sure it's a bit like watching Scott Pilgrim 2 or 3 times. It's like I felt like I'd already seen this movie while I was watching it. That's usually a bad thing. It was okay. It was not a waste of time. I enjoyed it, but I don't think there was much originality in it. I think that's the kindest way I can say it.
No, I think you bring up a good point, John, because I've heard that on several occasions, and I'm going to throw out, Kevin, I listened to another podcast, The Big Picture on the Ringer Network. They actually had an interview recently with Fede Alvarez, and he talks about how that was part of his making this film, is he wanted it to be his love letter to the Alien franchise. So he talked about using some things that people had seen before, and then I think, too, when you get to the final act, it kind of goes in a bit of a different direction than what we've been used to with the Alien franchise. So I think it was kind of reminiscent of some aspects of Alien 4 as well. But it's a very interesting interview. I would tell anybody to go out and find that podcast and check it out. But Lacey, what about you? What were your thoughts on Alien Romulus?
I read all of the reviews that everyone that I know who loves Aliens so much, and everybody was kind of like, it's like my 5th favorite in the series, so and so I haven't seen it. I am a fan. I will eventually see it. I'll see it before it gets out of the theaters, but there were some other things that I had going on this week, and I just haven't really I went ahead and got my bucket. I got my popcorn buckets and everything, and that's fine. I just haven't actually visually seen the. But again, I think with what John was saying, I'm not going to be surprised by anything that's in it. So y'all just spoiler away. I'm good.
Okay. Can I just say as well? I was talking to Peter Briggs online, who wrote Alien, one of the early versions of Alien vs Predator, and obviously the first Hellboy. And he made the observation that as a movie, it's okay. As a promotional item for the tie-in popcorn buckets, it's exceptional. And I think there is some truth to that. That there's probably the popcorn buckets are probably a bigger talking point in some ways than the movie.
We're gonna get into that topic after we review this, because I got some stuff I got to say about that.
Okay, I'm going to give my thoughts on the movie real quick, because Kevin, I know the importance of Aliens to you, and I want you to have the floor to cook. For me, I enjoyed this film. I had a good time at this film. I agree with Matt. There's some technical aspects I really like of this film. There's a couple of times where it is a little too dark, and I think there were some interesting ideas that they used. But I think for where the Aliens franchise is right now, a movie that feels like the old robe you put on, or your comfortable sneakers or something like that, is exactly what this franchise needed to get people back into it, because people were of a mixed bag of Prometheus and Covenant, and more, I think more so Covenant than Prometheus. I think people have come around and had a new appreciation for Prometheus over the years. But I think this, with the time that's passed in this franchise and what's going on, I think this is the perfect movie to bring people back into this franchise, maybe bring a new generation into this franchise as well. We also have the Alien Earth show coming to Hulu later, either later this year or sometime in 2025. I know it just wrapped filming here recently. And here, Kevin has actually got it up here because we got the Alien timeline going on. Now, some people would like to put the first 2 Blade Runner films in this timeline too, but that's a whole other thing. But we start Alien. Can you bring that up just for me real quick again, Kevin? I just wanted to address that. So you've got the Alien Earth TV show, which is 2092. Then we go to Prometheus, which happens a year later. Then it's all the way to Covenant. Then to the Alien film, and then where Alien Romulus fits in, and how far, I always forget how far in the timeline Alien Resurrection actually is.
What'd you say the last night?
I said how far in the timeline Alien Resurrection actually is.
Yeah.
But I like to cast this movie. I think there's a couple of the young actors in this film who are going within the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to be talking about as true Hollywood stars as well. I will say this, for me, I think the first 3/4 of the film is a lot of fun. The finale, the last 20 minutes of the film, I'm not going to say it was bad. I felt like it kind of took me out of it a little bit. Like, okay, this is like a totally different film now. What's going on here? But I did enjoy this film. I mean, because I'm a completionist, I will buy it. Lacey?
I have a question, since I have not seen it, and many people may not, whatever. So is this kind of like, Black Widow and a few other things that you've watched there where it's, what the next film is, the prequel or fitting something in between things, and what the end game is. Is I think there's something where that the last 30 minutes is going to be just everybody has to die, because that's what happens. Everybody has to die because they find, alien,
Yeah, I would say there's a yes and no aspect to that. This movie, as far as that aspect that you're talking about, where like everybody dying, from the get-go, it has a Rogue One kind of feel to it.
Right.
Like, yeah,
exactly.
This is not going
there are survivors.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. So
okay. Are they all aliens? Yeah, sorry.
Kevin, I know how important the Alien franchise is to you. Hell, you got married. Your anniversary is LV426. Your wedding cake was, you had Alien wedding cakes. Your wife is an absolute, and the wedding ring right there. I'm gonna give you a little bit of floor here to talk about Romulus, because I know this is a movie you were excited about. It's the Alien franchise, which you hold near and dear. So I'm gonna let you have the floor. Talk some Romulus.
So yeah, it's one of the movies that obviously my wife and I have bonded on so much. She's got a big tattoo of the Alien Queen on her back, and it was also our first date in London. Aliens was celebrating its 30th anniversary when I was there in London in 2016, and it was our first date. And so we obviously, as you guys know, we made the opportunity of getting married on Alien Day on April 26th, 2022 in Las Vegas, LV426, which is fun. And so we were both very looking forward to this film. My wife got a chance to see it first, but what was interesting too was that when I was over in Australia with her back in April, during, because I wanted to be there for our anniversary, and because Alien Day is celebrated now, by fans and movie theaters, they were doing a double feature of the original Alien and Aliens back to back. And the cool thing about that experience was seeing all those on the big screen again, because I had actually never seen Alien on the big screen before. So that now completes my bucket list of seeing all of the Alien films and Alien Predator films on the big screen. I've seen them all now, finally. And so when we were seeing the trailers for this, we were really excited about that. My wife got a chance to see it the day before I did, because they were doing screenings on the Wednesday in Australia. And she gave a non-spoiler review, and I liked it more than she did, but she had a lot of moments that she did like. I just want to talk about, I think you brought it up, John, the world building in this movie is fantastic. It's beautiful. Matt, you mentioned to it too. Stuff was grubby and dirty, and it felt that it brought you into that environment. And the thing that I liked about it too is that it showed you like the Weyland-Yutani, mining conglomerate or whatever it is, and all the other nefarious things that you get to see that they do as well, that they're basically like forcing these people as like almost slave labor to do what they want to do. And they're making it hard for them to make a living and to survive. And I'm just going to mention it again. If you ever watched the 1981-82 Outland film with Sean Connery, I feel like that could have been a prequel to any of these alien films because of what it's like to work for this shady company in space and with unions going on. It's fascinating. So it was great to see it on the big screen. And the one thing I had a trepidation about going into was Fede Alvarez. If you look at his films, especially the Evil Dead reboot, the problem that I've had with his films is that a lot of the main cast members are not likable. It's just a thread that I've seen with his films, and my wife will back me up on this, that you're like, okay, we can't wait for them to die, that type of situation. And I was a little apprehensive going into this film, thinking like, I hope the characters are likable. And lucky for me, and I think many of the fans, there's a few characters in this film that are likable and you want to see them survive, especially the lead character. She was great in this. So that was a relief for me. I actually found some likable character about that. And the one thing that's interesting about this, and a lot of the complaints that I've been getting, and I do have one major huge nitpick that I will spoil that just irked me to beyond all belief, but I kind of feel like not only is Fede Alvarez doing a tribute to the alien thing, I think he's doing actually a very smart thing here with this movie, is it's kind of a soft reboot without being a reboot for newer fans. And I was looking kind of below the layers on this, because if this is your first alien film, what I love about it is that it doesn't walk over other alien films or rewrite anything. They just sandwich it in between two really good alien films and kind of expand that world a little bit. But if it's your first alien film, you make you wonder, you know what, maybe I want to see these other films now. So I think for the younger viewers that haven't seen these other ones and they see this because they went in going, I love horror films, I think that did it justice. And obviously there's some callbacks to the films though, but the thing that I just can't forgive, but I will when I rewatch this and buy it on physical media, is the android guy saying, "Get away from her, you bitch." When we don't know if really she was a bitch, but all aliens are bitches, but that just kind of like diminishes Sigourney Weaver's one of her most famous lines in Aliens. You didn't have to do that. So, but I'm going to forgive it. I'm going to move on from it. I did like this film. And I got to tell you though, one of the things that it does is it creates some very tense moments dealing with aliens, because you have to keep in mind, trying to kill these aliens can be your death because of their acid for blood. And there was a wonderful scene, I'm going to bring it up here on the screen here, of zero gravity fight that she got smart and decided to turn off the gravity and shoot these aliens. But unfortunately, there's all this floating acid blood around. And you also got to see what happens when someone is hit with a full dose of acid blood, which was gory, and I loved it. But seeing the scene that was very tense of navigating through this corridor with all this acid blood before gravity kicks in was one of my favorite moments in a long time. It was great. So highly recommend it. It's a buy it. And then when it comes to streaming, I'm going to stream it. And then when it comes to 4K Blu-ray, I'm going to buy it and then watch it again.
Okay. Before I get to you, Lacey, I do have one more quick question for Kevin. This is very important. How does this movie rate on the Kevin Darkness scale?
You know what? It definitely had its darkness scales. For those of you that don't know, I mean, I'm not a fan of a lot of those CG films that like to have stuff at night and rain, covering the effects, and so they can chintz out on the effects and stuff like that. This kind of fit the movie for me personally, because I was paying attention. There was obviously some dark moments but that lent to the feelings you're having of like what's going to jump out and get you type of situation. But they had a lot of plenty well lit scenes that showcased moments in this film. So for me, it's a pass. It's a go.
Lacey, what did you?
I was just gonna, when you said the thing about him saying, get away from your bitch, if you watch them in order, that completely negates what she says because
Exactly, which is why I'm not a fan of that line.
Which reminds me, like when you watch Temple of Doom before you watch Raiders, there's the gun thing with the, where the whip and the gun, and where he does, and it completely negates the bizarre scene.
Yeah.
Also, I think that this scene that you've got showing with the acid in the air or in the non-air.
Zero gravity.
I think that I'm going to have a real struggle, not like humming, just keep swimming, because it's going to remind me of the jellyfish scene in Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
And I did want to clarify something because Lacey, you saw a post where Adam O'Brien put his list of his top 5 favorite Alien films, and I did the same. Mm-hmm. That wasn't us saying all of these, the top 2 were good and the rest sucked. That was just my favorite order of the ones. The only one that I disallow and will never revisit again is Alien Covenant, because that became more about David and less about everything else. And that's when I said, you got to take the directing chair away from Ridley on future Alien films. And I'm glad that he did not do this film, because then he's just going to write more about David and David and David and Fassbender and David. And I don't need that in the Alien film.
One last point I want to hit before we move on onto this, and this is kind of a spoiler for those of you who haven't seen it too. It's kind of a big one, but there's something especially I really want to get your take on this, John. I want to know about the Ian Holm of it all.
Yeah, I didn't know that was coming. I'd heard a spoiler about Andy being an android. I didn't know Ian Holm was coming, and it was the sort of thing that early on I thought, oh, it's just a cameo. Oh, it's okay. There's a bit of an uncanny valley thing there, and you'd already glimpsed John Hurt's idea at one point. There was that kind of name checking, and I thought, okay. And we've got a scene. Oh, that's interesting. Didn't Ian Holm die? Yes, he did. Okay, this must be CGI, so I can forgive the uncanny valley. It was a weird situation when Rook became more of an important character as the film went on, and the CGI and the performance capture. I think it's Andy Betts. I think was the actor who did some of the stuff for it. Got better and better as we went through it. So by the end of it, I was looking at it going like, I wonder if some of this is, cutting room floor stuff from Alien. It raises some interesting questions. I mean, it was done with full permission and cooperation from his estate, but yeah, I mean, that's in some ways, the most interesting thing about what this movie does. This is the first time I've seen, even beyond Peter Cushing, and that performance capture. This is the first time I've seen something, and if I hadn't known Ian Holm had died, I would not have known for the latter half of the movie that was a recreation. So yeah, very interesting, I thought, and largely well done.
Kevin?
I'd like to comment on that. I've heard some complaints about this approach in using Ian Holm's character, although not the Ash character that goes evil, of course, in the first Alien film. But this is like another version. This is where you realize that the Weyland-Yutani people are using this character to make sure that they stay on target without letting everyone else know what the target is, so to speak. And I thought when I was thinking about that, it was kind of like, whoa, my God, is that actually Ash? Like, no, wait a minute, he blew up. That didn't happen. But then this is another version of these androids that they make, and so they have different versions. Just like I'm sure there's different versions of Lance Hendrickson's character and such. But I thought that was kind of a cool call out, because as you see, he was trying to help carry on this stuff that we learned a lot about more in Prometheus, which I love the tie to Prometheus in this, and that these androids cannot be trusted.
I found it interesting how much of Prometheus tied into to this overall, and I actually give Beatty some credit for doing that in those aspects. But Lacey, what did?
Okay, 2 things. Number 1, are you telling me that the android's name is Andy?
One of the androids, yes.
Okay, because if there's going to be someone who's an android, it's going to be the person named Andy. The android is kind of a...
the android.
Okay. Secondly, bringing up Prometheus, I was not a fan of Prometheus. I got through maybe 30% of it. I just was... if I'm going to watch an alien movie, I want explosions and laser beams and space. And anyway. So that being said, what does one need to know, you said that this one ties back to Prometheus.
It helps.
You didn't like
It ties back more to the original film because Alien, because there's reference to the Nostromo in it.
Sure.
And if you want to watch a nice little Alien trilogy, Alien, Romulus, and Aliens is a good way to do it.
Cool. Okay. So I don't have to suffer through Prometheus to.
No.
Okay.
If you're not a fan of that film,
Gotcha.
you don't have
Not
to.
be all end all. So
Got it. Okay.
okay, guys, that is so. Just real quick around the room, Kevin. We know you're a buy it. I'm a buy it. We know Matt is a buy it. Lacey, we're going to give you an incomplete because you haven't seen
I'll
it.
probably buy it. I'm a completist as well. So
John, are you buying it? You streaming it? Are you done with it?
I would probably rent it, but I would also go and play The Last of Us for a while because the lead actress reminds me of Ellie from The Last of Us. So
That's a good call out.
I will go. I will go definitely. And I'm sure the director's seen some of it because there's some scenes like the dad jokes and stuff which seem completely lifted from that. But yeah, I'll go and play The Last of Us for a while with Ellie, and then I'll come back and rent this when it's available.
Yeah. Before we get to our next film, Kevin, you got a little side thing you want to discuss? Something?
Oh yeah, definitely. So, so one of the big things that we touched on it briefly is the promotional popcorn bucket. This is the year of the popcorn buckets, guy. It's not the first year, but it's definitely the year of popcorn buckets. And the one that kind of started it all, especially the way the design of it, was the Dune 2 popcorn bucket here. Control yourself there, John. I know you're getting hot, but yeah.
You're feeling the spice. It's spicy around here.
I've got one right over here as well. And so yeah, that trying to get a hold of this thing was like a big deal.
Yeah.
So and then next we've got Ghostbusters. They did a great job with different versions of their popcorn buckets. This is just a sample of a couple of them here. All right.
The Ghost Trap. It's all about the Ghost Trap.
Ghost Trap. And there was I guess an Ecto 1 popcorn bucket 2, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
And there was a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man drink. It was a big drink cup. Yeah. And then next we have here Furiosa. A little toned down, but still kind of cool looking, more of your traditional style cups and popcorn buckets. But then we get to Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine, and things got stepped up a lot here, of course. And if you remember that after the Dune bucket came out, they, of course, teased the Wolverine one right there. And Lacey is holding up one of the many cups there that have a cool topper there. And then the floating head Deadpool, voiced by Nathan Fillion in the film, was a very popular popcorn bucket as well. And I've got those two hanging over on my head, looking down on me right now. So there you go.
Well, but Kevin, this is what we're really talking about.
The Funko.
Now.
We lost Kevin.
Yep. Kevin dropped himself there. Hopefully he will be back shortly. But yeah, the aliens got him.
There.
Did you kill it? Is the face hugger gone?
I accidentally dropped out there for a second. Here, I'm back. So, I was determined. Okay, let me rephrase this. My wife was determined that I find alien popcorn buckets one way or another. When it first came out that they were teasing these things, I got a message from her right away saying, "You're on this, right?" I'm like, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am." And what was very frustrating was a lot of people were able to go to the theaters before the freaking movie came out and purchase popcorn buckets. And also a lot of them sold out before the movie even came out in those particular theaters. And so my feeling on this was dread, because I'm like, I got to drive over an hour south to get to a theater that's even close to carrying some of these. But I did find some. I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Kyle?
Was it dread of not finding the bucket or dread of divorce papers?
Column A, column B, a little bit of both right there, buddy. As my wife would say famously, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. So this first picture we have here is the alien head that has the kind of silvery teeth on it with more of the natural looking colors of the kind of veins behind the jaw. This one was a Cinemark popcorn bucket, apparently. Now, when I took I drove like 60 miles and went to 4 different theaters to try to find what I was looking for. And the first one I went to was a Cinemark. And I walked in first, and keep in mind, I hadn't bought my ticket to any screening yet, and this is on the actual preview day. I had to figure out my decision of what to do and where to see it within a couple of hours. So I went to Cinemark saying, "Do you have your popcorn buckets here?" She's like, "We did." I'm like, "What does that mean?" He's like, "We sold out a few days ago." And I'm like, "So," she's being kind of snotty about it too, which kind of pissed me off. And I said, "So you sold out of all the popcorn buckets before you actually showed the movie?" She's like, "Yeah." Like, "Well, that's a reason why I'm not spending money here today." And I left. So luckily I was on my way to an AMC and of course the Regal. And this is where I hit pay dirt, guys. As you can see, I've got the Regal alien like head, the black one there with the white teeth, the little mini mouth. And then I've got the, I'll even bring it up right over here closer to the screen. I got this bad boy right here.
That is my favorite one, I think, of the bunch.
Yeah. More on this in a second. But these two here, the actual alien head and the alien or the face hugger specimen jar, which lights up, by the way. I'll go ahead and turn it on here. If you can see that light comes on there. These were both at Regal. Okay. And I was able to get this pair while it was there, but I didn't buy my ticket yet because down the street there was an AMC. Okay. So the AMC popcorn bucket, as I'm showing you the video here, let me go ahead and bring this up a little bit closer here. This one's got the face hugger that wraps around it, and it says Alien Romulus on it. And if you look inside of it, you can actually remove the face hugger, and the face hugger legs are actually articulated, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, very cool. Also, at the AMC, was it AMC? I think it was Regal. They had these cool mugs you could buy with the alien toppers. One is the face hugger and one is actual alien itself. And you could choose whatever one. I ended up buying two. I didn't realize there was more than one. And the lady gave me one of each to put them on top of here. But this is the one I like too. This was at the AMC. This is an actual ceramic mug that looks like an opened face hugger egg. And as you can see, it's like full on there. So I was able to get my hands on those. It wasn't until I bought the ones at AMC with the articulated face hugger. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to that Regal because it's on the way home. And I felt like that's where I scored. And so I went back. That's where I ended up watching the movie there. But I'm not done here, guys, because people seem to think this right here. Oh, wait, that's a picture of my collection right here. This one is the best popcorn alien. This is the best popcorn bucket of all time, some people are saying. So I wanted to ask you guys, did you get your hands on one? If not, what do you think? Is that the best one?
I'm interested. How much do those cost? Because I've seen them for ridiculous amounts online.
On eBay, yes. I'm seeing on average, I saw a pair of these two, the alien head and the face hugger specimen. I saw one go for $227 on eBay for the pair. Okay. Individually, I've seen these anywhere from like $80 to $100 each, basically. Originally, I believe they were about $40 a pop for this one here, I think. And the alien one, I think they were like $39.99 or something like that.
Somebody's going to retire by buying like 100 of them and just selling them on eBay.
The head was 40 for me, and the specimen jar was 35.
35. And then I think this one here was 30. I think the one, the AMC
that's
one,
the UK one as well. I think that's
they
the
have
one that's
this one
available
too
in the UK. I
didn't see that one.
UK on it.
So my question to you guys is: of all the buckets you've seen, which one do you think's the best? Kyle.
The specimen.
Well, since every theater I've been to was sold out by the time I got there, but I do think the specimen jar is the coolest looking one.
Lacey, what do you think?
That's one you can actually have on display.
Right. I haven't turned mine on. I just got it. A friend of mine who works at a theater texted me, and she was like, I heard you were looking for the specimen bucket. I was like, yeah, it was sold out. She was like, I got you covered. So I went by and picked it up. I will say that my favorite of the Deadpools was the one that had the lid. So I think that my favorite one of these is going to be the specimen jar, just because it has a lid.
Right.
I like the idea of not having. I will always spill the popcorn. At least this much of the popcorn is going to be under my chair when I'm sitting it down, just so I can get myself seated.
I kind of want to just like leave this on the ground with like the light, like during Halloween with the light open, and then like have that other face hugger from the AMC jar like kind of like hang around it. John, which one is your favorite?
Definitely that one. I mean, that's the one that looks like it should be on a shelf.
Which one?
You know, somewhere. The specimen jar.
You mean this one that I bought for you, John? Someone sent me a text a little while ago saying, hey, if you happen to see an extra one of these, can you look out for it? John, I'm here to present to you. This is yours. I'll be sending this to you.
Woohoo! I've been trying to get one for a while. I put like feelers out on eBay and stuff, but the things were just not. I mean, it was just, as you said, ridiculous amounts to the point.
I got you covered, like, brother.
Really thank you so much.
Okay, man. Which popcorn bucket?
It's a lovely design, though, isn't it? I mean, it seems to me that people have now started, and I know this isn't the beginning of it, but this seems to put a line in the sand that says, there's a whole new industry. You know, George Lucas got rich off the little action figures from Star Wars. This seems to be the year where, going forward, I would love to know what's going to be for other movies.
This is helping getting people back in the frickin' theaters. Yep. I will tell you right now, it's a genius way of movie theaters saying, hey, we need a gimmick. We need to get people to not wait for streaming to get in the theaters. Now, it would be helpful if you waited till the actual movie started before you started selling them. Let me just give you a message right.
Yeah. The Beetlejuice stuff, if you look online right now, is out and the film isn't out.
That's my only problem, because I wish that, you know, I got lucky, and so there you go.
Okay, Matt, which one would you want?
Definitely the specimen jar. That one's, I agree. That one goes right on the shelf. You can light it up and all that.
We can do funky Hollywood stuff with that, or Halloween stuff with that, like Kevin said. So, yeah.
Is it battery, or does it have a replaceable battery, or is it gonna?
I assume it's I assume it's a button battery. You had to pull the little tab off of it to connect it. It's got.
But you can replace it, like you can.
Yeah. There's a little screw thing right there. There's the on-off right there.
Very cool.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Here it is. It says requires 3 AAA batteries.
Nice.
So I'll just throw it out there, Lacey, Kevin, because if you happen to find a theater that somehow magically found the missing one, let me know. But because I have not seen any of the buckets, period, on the shelves in the theaters here in Florida.
Gotcha.
They were gone.
Nowhere around here has got any of them. They're all fairly small movie theaters, even if they're parts of chains. So that's the one thing. When I used to live in Leeds, in Yorkshire, in England, I was a short bus ride, like 20 minutes away from 2 or 3 major chains, of which I had good relationships with. So I would often go down there for movie previews on a morning before I to write things up. So I'm sure I could have got all of these things, if I was still there, but nowhere in, a 60-mile radius of here has anything like it. I phoned up beforehand to find out, like, for Deadpool and Wolverine and stuff, and they were just like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. They're not even there and gone. They're just not there. So, but I think it's going to be a major industry now. I mean, there's things I'm looking at going like, wow, I want one of those for my shelf.
There was a huge line at the concession stand for Deadpool and Wolverine, and these buckets were just selling like everyone was getting some. Everyone. I was lucky I went 2 hours early before the movie started on preview day to get mine just in case, and they allowed me to do that because I had my ticket with me. But Lacey, you were going to say something?
Well, I was going to say I still have an extra Wolverine popcorn bucket if somebody needs one. Did you get the? Did you?
I think you have Mr. Mosby's attention.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll hook you up, John.
We'll
make that happen. See, we take care
if
of our
I won the
guests
lottery. If I won the lottery tonight, I would put like a little slush fund for these things, because I'm going to have to start being picky, because I would want one of everything.
Can you guys describe the Beetlejuice one? I have not seen this. What is it?
There's one that's the snake.
Several.
The big, the black and white snake. The big one, and then there's another one that's. Is it his head that I can't remember? There's a second one.
There's one that's a gray. There's a gravestone. There's quite a few
Yeah.
sought after. There's a gravestone. There's a book of the Guide to Being and the Undead,
That's right.
apparently, which is
Yeah.
very rare.
The book.
And there's like a metallic, a tin one with him sitting on the top of it, which apparently lights up, which looks really good. That's going for about $50 or $60 minimum on eBay now. I know.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we've talked popcorn, we've talked aliens, but we do have a few other films to talk about here. So, Kevin, this is one you watched. I was hoping to get it watched before this episode, but just time didn't get with me. I am a huge John Cena fan. I love everything he does. It's just, he might not be the greatest films, but they're always entertaining. And you throw him in with Awkwafina and Simu Liu, and you have a jackpot, Kevin.
Yeah, this has a Purge feel to it, which I'm a big fan of the Purge films. And this takes place in about 10 years in the future, where the lottery becomes deadly. And the lottery jackpot is huge. This particular storyline, the lottery jackpot is $3.8 billion. And Awkwafina is the unlucky winner, because the way it works is that if someone kills you before sundown or a certain time, they get to take your lottery and keep it for themselves. So there's a time frame on this. And people like John Cena, they either work for themselves, or Simu Liu runs a company, a protection company that will protect winners to make it to the deadline before other people get a chance to kill them. The one rule, though, you cannot kill them with guns. You have to find other ways to kill them, but not with guns. And there's a lot of very funny moments. And also, it cemented my opinion that John Cena is having the action comedy career that I wish The Rock would have taken. I'm enjoying every film that John Cena has been in, every TV show. And I'm not even a wrestling fan, but for wrestling people that have gone on to do the whole action scene, John Cena is just freaking hilarious too.
Lacey, have you had a chance to watch this yet?
I haven't. I am so excited. Is this Netflix? Is this in the
It's
theater?
on Amazon. It's on
Amazon.
Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that it was coming out. I just hadn't seen it,
And there's a hilarious blooper reel, behind the scenes reel through the whole credits, or pretty much the whole credits, which is totally worth watching.
Very cool. I'm very excited about this. I love John Cena, just for the fact that he has done more Make-A-Wish. He's granted more Make-A-Wish wishes than everyone else who's ever done a Make-A-Wish together.
You put a number up on social media. What?
Yeah, he's done 650. He's granted 650 wishes as of like September of 2022.
Wow.
Like the man will literally. I mean, he's just a good guy, man. Like he's just awesome.
And he'll walk out naked on the Oscars. Come on, let's get it.
Right. And he's funny, and he's got all he's got the physical talent. He's got the comedy, which is hard. Like comedy's harder than drama. It just is, because if you drop the comedy the wrong way, it's just bad. And he's got a rap album. I mean, hello, what? Okay.
Jackpot is a stream it for me. I did enjoy it, so check it out.
Well, I don't know if you can purchase it. Can you?
Well, yeah, but the idea of it is how good.
In the world of physical media, whether it's legal or not, you can find a way to get it on physical media.
Well, okay, that's
fair. So, John, I'm going to ask you: have you seen Jackpot?
I haven't. It is on my list of things to watch if I can in the next few weeks. Probably after a week at school, I would probably need something which sounds to me like it's just unadulterated, silly fun, and sometimes that's exactly what you need.
So I do want to get your opinion, since we are talking John Cena, because he's kind of had a year in the last actually 2 years, and I know, John, you have a Peacemaker helmet sitting somewhere back home.
I wish I did. That's a Peacemaker popcorn bucket. There we go.
There we go. But what are your thoughts on Cena? Just what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I wasn't sure at the start, but he's made some very good choices. He's clearly got a good agent and a good eye for for spotting stuff. He is somebody who has that, and you've mentioned The Rock as somebody who very similar, who doesn't mind sending themselves up. I think the secret is that you've got to go into and pick the kind of movies where you are going to be effectively the idiot in some ways. A lot of the action stars of the World Wrestling Federation and the like, I think 10 years or so ago, were going, I have to be the hero. I have to be the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I have to be the that kind of it. And I think The Rock and a couple of others were the revelation of going, no, you play the kind of the hero, as it were, but you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You don't have to be the guy that is going to beat up everybody and do everything. You just have to be the kind of charming one. And The Rock, I think, has had, has made some bad choices, but he's made some good choices as well. I think he kind of set the mold for that you can have fun by not being the smartest person in the movie. And it gives you a lot more latitude. And John Cena clearly doesn't mind sending himself up at all. And that's good.
If you have not seen Vacation Friends 1 or 2 on Hulu, that might be peak John Cena comedy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the one he did recently with Allison Brie, what was that one called, Lacey?
Freelance.
Freelance?
Yeah.
That was a fun movie.
I would say I would absolutely watch a Cena Bautista Rock kind of combo situation. I think that would be a really fun way for them to just start a franchise of their own and just go down the road with it.
There you go.
I have no idea what needs to happen in the storyline, but you put the three of them together, and I'm gonna watch it.
I think we should let Matt write it because Matt would have some good ideas.
Matt, we were having a Cena conversation before we got on mic. I know you're a fan.
I am a big fan. I was gonna say, I don't know if you guys. There was this comedy that came out a few years ago. I think Tina Fey was in it or something like that. It was called Sisters. And there's a party scene in it where John Cena plays this tattooed drug dealer.
I remember that one. It was hilarious. Mm-hmm. I think I first noticed his comedy chops in the movie Blockers because that was filmed in Atlanta too. And I was just like, this guy is funny.
Say the full name, Kevin.
It was just called
Blockers.
Trainwreck. Trainwreck was freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to see. I want to see John Cena and Jason Statham in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I don't think they've been in together because they've both got the kind of action chops and the ability to just be, what was the film that Jason Statham was in with Melissa McCarthy? Spy.
Spy. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. And if you've seen the Blue,
so funny.
It's hilarious.
So funny.
Yeah. So I love those kind of big action stars that go, I'm just going to have fun doing this, and if I'm the idiot in the movie, that's fine. I'll get better laughs.
On the good news front, John Cena is currently filming Peacemaker season 2, so it is happening.
Yes.
We're very excited about that. But our next film up is one Kevin and I haven't seen, but our guests John and Lacey have, and that is the new M. Night Shyamalan film Trap. I am very curious to hear your guys' take on this film because I was intrigued by the concept of it, but it's also M. Night Shyamalan, and we know that can go in a lot of different directions. John, I kind of saw you dipping your head and shaking it here, so I'm going to let you get your thoughts.
I know how John feels.
It's 2 hours of my life I will never get back. I've seen reviews of it that are more positive, but it's terrible. I mean, I'm sorry, it is utterly terrible. There's some ideas in there which are fine. There's some parts of the performances that are okay. There's some slightly sort of zagging instead of zigging, which is okay. It's fine, but it's just a movie that has no steering wheel. It takes an idea which I'm going like, okay, this could be interesting, and then just runs with that for about an hour of it, and then it just changes to a different movie. Yeah, it changes locale and concentrates some of the characters that we think are going to be hugely important. Now let's get rid of those for the moment. We have some new characters that were coming on. Suspiciously, M. Night Shyamalan's daughter playing one of the main characters. I'm sure she got it completely, and utterly on talent and nothing because of her dad. She's actually okay, and then it shifts again in the last 10 minutes, and it's a movie that has no idea what it wants to be. And I'm sure Shyamalan, I know, is kind of a Marmite director. He did The Sixth Sense, he did Unbreakable, and there's been movies since then which divide people, but which are interesting. But I find that he has less and less to say, and people keep giving him more and more money to say it. And I can't find anything to encourage people to go and see this movie. Rent it, if it happens to be a Saturday night and you've had drunk and had pizza and stuff. It's that kind of movie where you just go, oh, it's okay. But to actually go and pay money to go and see this, it's a train wreck. I mean, there's so many characters that are wasted. Hayley Mills, classic veteran actress. I have no idea what she's doing in this movie. She could literally almost have phoned 90% of it in.
When I looked at
Um,
IMDb and saw that Haley Mills was in it, my jaw kind of hit the floor because I haven't seen her in anything in forever.
Yeah, I mean, and I was going like, oh my God, it's Haley Mills. Well, clearly she's going to be doing something with the role. And, 2/3 of the way through it, you're going, so I guess not. Yeah, it's hard to know where it went wrong. I'm laying it all at M. Night Shyamalan's feet because people seem to say yes to him and he just seems to kind of film the first draft. I interviewed him many, many years ago. And it solidified my opinion of him that he has some interesting ideas, but he tends to think his work is a lot cleverer than it is. There are some clever stuff. There's clever stuff in some of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. Some of them have interesting premises, but less and less so am I interested in thinking he has anything to say, that he's written the script before the movies started shooting. It's a mess is the short review of that. It is utterly a mess.
I saw your review on your page, and you said, "Why do people giving money to M. Night Shyamalan money to make movies?" And he's hit or miss, but I would say more miss than hits, I guess
nowadays. Yeah.
Lacey.
Okay, so I'm not going to disagree with anything that you said. However, I think that because he's known for his like amazing twists, right? And the twist in this movie is that he tried to direct something that went from A to B, took 47 stops, and then changed buses without actually going anywhere. But I'm pretty sure, because the casting was phenomenal. I love Josh Hartnett. He's he's such a chameleon when it comes, when people give him the chance. He's really good at doing these roles that aren't, Popcorn Boy or whatever. He's been in some of my favorite indie films, and like you were talking about Haley Mills, she's amazing. I mean, come on. I actually liked his daughter. I thought she was very talented. I think she's actually a singer as well. So the soundtrack is great. Like some of the songs that they sang were really good. I think that the girl who played, and I'm blanking on her name, but the girl who played Josh Hartnett's daughter was very well chosen. I have no idea why there was any conversation between like the whole thing about the woman who has the daughter that his daughter's arguing, that's completely, it wasn't even intelligent enough to be a MacGuffin. It wasn't even, because you think that but I don't know. The thing is that the trailer for this film showed him in the bathroom looking on his phone at the person that was in, that he had tied up somewhere.
The trailer was really good.
But the thing is, if you know the answer, why are you going to watch the movie? The movie, if they had done it, if they had done the marketing properly with, several of the other characters and kind of made the, and then you don't know who the person is. And that's the twist, is that it's the dad with his daughter. Holy crap. Are you kidding? What? This innocent, sweet guy who's like, oh, I'm going to take the kid out to the concert and we should have our kids together because they don't want them to fight and all that kind of stuff. That's awesome. Because then you start going back and going, oh, so that's why okay. And you don't know it. That would have been fantastic. I think that would have worked very well for the just the content. Look, y'all, I can't talk about this because I went to school for screenwriting. This is not something that I can, because I can't judge. Nobody made my screenplay, so it's fine. I'm not trying to.
I still want to see this film. I still want to see it.
I'm intrigued. Just real quick, guys. The Josh Hartnett of it all. Mm-hmm. Is he a bad actor, or can he just not find the right project?
He's a fantastic actor. He's been in so many fun, small, independent roles that I absolutely loved. He was in a movie called Blow Dry when he was a kid, younger, probably 16, 17.
Oh my
18.
God, yes.
Right?
Hairdressers.
Hairdressers,
in
yeah.
Yorkshire.
Yes. Yeah. And Rachel, anyway.
Evans Wood.
What?
Rachel Evans Wood.
Rachel Evans Wood.
Rachel, the woman from, she's an Australian actress and she's, I can't. Anyway,
don't worry about it.
He's been in so many fun, and don't get me wrong, he's also done the fun teen. He did The Faculty, right? Yeah. He did Texas. What is it? Texas.
30 Days of Night. One of the
30
favorite
Days of
horror
Night was
films.
fantastic, and I will fight somebody for that.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill. That's like the scariest vampire movie I've ever seen, and I am not a fan of scary.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Well, Matt was just mentioned Black Hawk Down, which I thought he was phenomenal.
Oh
in.
God, yes.
I will say, that movie gave me some like that. I felt that in my gut. Like that was not a movie that I could watch again.
I was intrigued that he was in this because I've missed Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
I want to see him in more stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. He was most recently, before this, he was in Operation the most recent Guy Ritchie movie where he played like it was kind of like the opposite of the Nicolas Cage movie that they did, where they hired this guy. That's
what Jason Statham was in that one.
Yeah. And it was fun. He's talented enough to hold a movie on his own, but he's also willing to take like a small part just to be fun because he wants to work with a certain director, or he just wants to be fun.
To wrap this up, buy it, stream it, or unsee it for
Trap.
Trap, yeah.
I went and saw it a second time.
Let's buy it for you.
Yeah, I think so. Just because I wanted to see if it was going to be different, knowing all the details beforehand. Also, I have a Regal pass, so
I think we know Mr. Mosby's thoughts.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for that last minute thing at the end where you find out that everybody at the concert is dead, then I burn it. Watch it burn.
I think that's an equivalent of unmake it.
Did you just say everyone at the concert is dead?
Everybody at the concert. Didn't you get that? Everybody, this is hell, and everybody at the concert is dead. Yeah, but they're also superheroes, and they must never go into any woods with red hair.
I was shocked.
All of a sudden, I really, really want to see this movie now.
Yeah, I know. I've been known to own and watch shitty movies, and it sounds like I'm in for a good time.
I was shocked by the full frontal nudity and the puppets. I wasn't sure where that was going to go.
Okay, this is getting off track here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the next movie, which is a movie I know, Kevin, you watched. I'm actually curious about this.
Ooh.
Mark Wahlberg is turning into the hardest working man in Hollywood. It seems like every other month he has a movie pop up. Now he's got one that was on Netflix with Halle Berry, The Union, Kevin.
Yeah, I think he's got a Netflix limited contract like a lot of these stars are. And this is it's a predictable, fun action movie. Basically, Halle Berry plays an old flame who comes back into his life, and he's a hard-working man working on bridges in was it New Jersey or something. And her espionage group that she works for gets compromised, and she needs someone's help that is not on the radar. And basically, think of all the espionage people that get their names leaked. This is kind of one of those situations. And J.K. Simmons is in it. He plays the boss. And so he reluctantly goes along doing this thing. And it's predictable, but a lot of it's shot in and around London, which I liked. I was just there recently. One of my favorite locations, Seven Dials, is in the film in there as well. Then they do a great location shoot in Croatia. Nice little action scene. They've what's his name? Mike Coulter. Is that his name?
Love him.
Luke Cage on.
Yeah, Luke Cage. He's in it as well, and Jackie Earle Haley is in it. So it's got a great cast. What's really funny is at the end when the credits are rolling, you know that these people used to date, right? And then they moved apart. She went off to espionage. He stayed hometown working on stuff, right? But what's great is that to prove that they were an item back in the day, they used old real pictures of Marky Mark hanging out with a young Halle Berry during the Strictly Business and Last Boy Scout days and stuff like that, because they actually they were hanging out at some party. So they used that to establish that they had a relationship at the end of the film, which I thought was kind of funny.
Nice.
Another turn your brain off, fun action movie. They actually have good chemistry. J.K. Simmons was good in it. I do recommend it. To stream it.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Lacey, this is one you've seen. A lot of people are talking about this. Obviously, it's getting a little Ryan Reynolds bump because of Miss Lively being in it. And Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have kind of even left their movie press docket to go hype Blake's movie. It ends with us. Okay, Lacey, I'm going to give you the floor here.
It's a tough subject, and there's definitely a filter on it. It deals with domestic abuse. A lot of people are very upset that it has a specific filter on it, because the way it's shot is from the point of view of someone who is being domestically abused, but who is convinced that they're not being domestically abused. So it shows it from inside the gaslight, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And it's not until a certain point in the film where because it's shot inside the gaslight. And then there's a point where she realizes what's going on, and she's just, all of a sudden you see in her head, like all the way things actually happened. And so there's a lot of, which I understand. This is not a movie for someone who is going to be triggered by that kind of content. There is a sequel. Supposedly they're going to bring that forward. It is shot from the second book is from the other person's point of view. So I'm not sure how they're going to do that. But I enjoyed the film for the light that it showed. Like, it shows that, you know, people deal with things differently, and it did show her taking, you know, responsibility for her safety and for her daughter's safety and all this kind of stuff, and making sure that everyone was safe. And I think it was a little bit too tight in a bow for some people's tastes. I enjoyed it for what it was. I was happy with the ending. I have not been domestically abused. As a human person, me personally, I have not had to deal with that. So I don't have the view. I don't have anything to compare that to. So I can't say that it's not something that, you know, I'm not going to argue that point, because I don't have that to base my own experiences off of.
Got a statement and a question. Statement is, this movie's made a lot of money. It's up to $186 million on a budget of $25 million. I'm sure it's getting a little bump, of course, with the Deadpool Wolverine opening up soon after that, but it's made a impressive amount. One of my 80s, 90s crushes, Robin Lively, apparently is in this film. Does she have a good role in this? Yes or no?
I mean, she's got a little pop up there.
Okay. Teen Witch, anybody?
Yeah. No, I will say that this was based on a New York Times bestseller. It's been out for quite some time, so this is something where people had been wanting this film to be made. This is not something where it's, you know, just a fledgling little indie book that's, you know, this is something that's had a huge following.
Is this a buy it, stream it, or unsee it for you then?
I think I'll buy it. I think that the way it was shot was fantastic. I think that the way they shot it from inside, I've never seen a film done like this, where what you see is how she perceives it from inside the abuse.
Interesting.
And then it reveals the actuality of what happened. So I think that it's something I'll probably buy it. There's going to be a sequel. It's called I think it starts with us, or it begins with us. I can't remember. But both books have been out for quite some time.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but I enjoyed it.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's interesting to think about the marketing of this movie, because the marketing has made me aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it was about a kind of love story that went wrong. I didn't know until literally the last 24 hours that it was really about domestic abuse. And I think that's perhaps been a misfire on the marketing, because some people will have gone to see it thinking it's one thing, and some people might not have gone to see it thinking it's one thing. Perhaps it could have been a bit smarter marketed, maybe.
Well, and also I think that Blake Lively, just as an actress, like, she's very talented, she's very fun, but a lot of people don't give her credit for the humor in things. And she plays, like, the first half an hour of the movie, she's got like all these little one-line drops where you're just like, this is awesome. And Jenny Slate is her best friend in the movie. She's a phenomenal comedian. I mean, she's hilarious in everything she does. Even if she's in a huge drama, she manages to put these funny little, because drama is only as dramatic as the comedy relief. I mean, that's just kind of how you have to be able to take those breaths during a huge dramatic movie.
So you recommend it, obviously.
I do, but I will say there's also been some issue with apparently the director, and there was some I don't know, people are using the word abuse on set, that kind of thing. Like he was very aggressive. Yeah. I don't know. I don't read the specifics on that, but yeah. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the film.
Thanks for the review.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I think it sounds like one of those movies that people need to see for a different number of reasons.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
guys, it's time to flip the switch because it's time to do a little time travel. That is right. We are continuing our Fandom Podcast Network Time Travel Spotlight. And we have a classic this week, and it is the 1979 film Time After Time. When we were discussing all of the movies we want to talk about, this one kind of came up. We've got some interesting perspectives on this one because Lacey and I have seen this film. John, I'm assuming you've seen Time After Time?
A long while ago, but yes.
This was Kevin's first time seeing this film, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to get into this because this is a very interesting time travel thing. We're dealing with H.G. Wells, who a lot of people consider in some ways the father of time travel in certain aspects, and you're dealing with a true historical figure in Jack the Ripper as well. And if those of you who are maybe not familiar with what the concept of Time After Time is, it's actually very intriguing. And I remember it because my parents were big fans of this, but the basic premise is H.G. Wells pursues Jack the Ripper to the 20th century when the serial murderer uses the future writer's time machine to escape his time period. Now, this is definitely a classic. You can feel the 70s of it, but you have an amazing cast in this film. You've got Malcolm McDowell, you've got Mary Steenburgen, and of course David Warner, who plays Jack the Ripper in this film. And it's old school, but there's something about it that's I found very charming and very entertaining as well. And I think it's a very interesting representation of time travel and how they did it. And it's, again, an amazing cast. They even tried to do a remake of this as a TV show several years ago. But guys, I'm going to kind of just start off with here because Lacey, I want to start with you because you have a little story when it comes to time after time.
Oh, yes. And I'm very sad because I couldn't find, I'm still under construction. I couldn't find my 8.5 or my 11 by 17. I actually got to meet Dragon Con, I don't know, probably a decade ago. David Warner and Malcolm McDowell were both there, and they did an alternate history panel where they talked all about it. It was a fantastic panel, first of all, but then I managed somehow I found myself in the Walk of Fame area where all the signatures happen, and there was just nobody there except for him and his handler. And we got to chat for.
You talking about David Warner?
Yeah. I know the same thing happened with Peter Weller, but that was like a couple years later. I did not talk about early Renaissance Italian art with Malcolm McDowell. But Malcolm McDowell was delightful. It was fantastic. But I have a 17 by 11 mini little poster of this signed by the two of them, which was really cool. And since we've lost David Warner, it's kind of nice that I was able to meet him and talk to him. And they were both absolutely just the sweetest fellas.
So with that too, John, I know it's been a while since you've seen this film, but what do you remember of this film and what did you think of this film?
I always used to get confused when people talked about this movie until they started talking about it with Somewhere in Time, because those were two early classics, the Christopher Reeve movie. And so when I would always have to go, now hold on, Somewhere in Time, Time After Time. Okay, fine. No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both of those movies, in fact. And my only connection is that Malcolm McDowell was born in the town in Leeds, in Yorkshire, where I grew up, Horsforth, in Leeds, in England. He was born in the same maternity hospital, same hospital as my younger brother, years apart. But yeah, he's always been a very interesting, enigmatic performer. It's been a long time since I saw this movie, but I remember enjoying it. It was one of those high concept ones that I was surprised. I should say I was always thinking it would be remade as another movie. As you say, it was made as a TV series, which didn't last very long. But the premise is, no pun intended, one of those timeless things that you can play with very well. two great actors, David Warner and Malcolm McDowell, and Mary Steenburgen, one of the really good actresses out there. So yeah, it's one of those things that I kind of find myself, if it ever comes on streaming, or I just flicking through the channels and it's there, I end up watching some of it. It's been a long time since I did, but it does sort of creep up on you every so often that it's one of those movies you just go, oh, that I will have to stop and watch that now. And there's something, I was going to say quaint about it, but that sounds like it's almost an insult, and I don't mean it that way. There is something that is of the time it was made, which still works because the premise itself is timeless. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those I recommend to people. Yes, it's going to look a little dated in some parts, but the actual, once you get past the fashion of it, and maybe the slightly the pacing of it, I think you've got a really good movie.
Ken, I'm going to get to your thoughts here in just a minute, but I want to hit a few trivia things first, because this movie actually has some very interesting Hollywood trivia with it.
Real quick, I believe this was Nicholas Meyer's first film he directed.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So all four of the real H.G. Wells children were still alive at the time of this film's release. I find that fascinating.
Wow.
Malcolm McDowell listened to recordings of H.G. Wells to prepare for the role. According to him, Wells's voice was high-pitched and Cockney accented, so he decided not to imitate it. A deleted scene featuring Wells meeting a punk who was playing extremely loud boombox music on a bus in San Francisco. Nicholas Meyer later reused this idea in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
Yes.
While the role of A.B. Robbins went to Mary Steenburgen, the studio had wanted Sally Field. Director Nicholas Meyer's first choice was his girlfriend, Shelley Hack. She reportedly didn't want to become famous due to her boyfriend's help, but she did accept a small role as a docent at the museum that H.G. Wells transports into. In this film, Mary Steenburgen plays Amy Robbins, a 20th century woman who falls in love with a time traveler from the 19th century. In Back to the Future Part 3, she plays Clara Clayton, a 19th century woman who falls in love with a time traveler from the 20th century.
So just to get this perspective, in Back to the Future 3, she goes from the past to the future. And in this one, she goes from the future to the past.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
we're going to have a discussion about that here. Don't trust me. As I said earlier, ABC produced a Time After Time series in 2017. The network removed the series from its schedule due to low ratings after broadcasting 5 episodes. However, all 12 have been broadcast in Spain and Portugal. It was the film debut of one Corey Feldman.
I don't remember what scene he was in.
Yeah, I Lacey?
He was the kid in the museum who said, Mom, come here, look.
Oh, okay.
He's like this tall. He's like little bitty. He had one or two lines like, what, but Mom, that kind of thing.
Okay.
He was the guy who said, get away from her, you bitch.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Absolutely.
So to give you an idea of the threads that in fandom that this movie runs through. This film has 4 connections to the Star Trek franchise. David Warner and Malcolm McDowell went on to become Star Trek guest stars. Warner played 3 different characters in Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, and Chain of Command Part 1 and Chain of Command Part 2. We might be talking about those later, Kevin. McDowell played Dr. Tolian Sauron in Star Trek Generations 1994. Both this film and Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home were written by Nicholas Meyer. The film features a time traveler from the past who arrives in modern-day San Francisco, while The Voyage Home features time travelers from the future who arrive in modern-day San Francisco. Both films feature the time travelers experiencing several instances of fish-out-of-water scenarios for comedic effect, as well as selling antique items that they have in their possession in order to raise money. In both films, a modern-day woman decides to join the time travelers as they return to their own time periods. H.G. Wells says, I have all these books to write, whatever they are. Mark Twain would say the same thing in Time's Arrow Part 2 both take place in San Francisco.
Stay tuned to the Fandom Podcast Network. We'll be covering that TNG episode.
Yep. Malcolm McDowell told his children that he had with Mary Steenburgen that this movie is a record of their courtship. Dowell and Steenburgen met on the set and fell in love. They married only months after the movie wrapped production, which just tells you Mary Steenburgen works fast between her character in this movie and real life. But that's a whole other thing. Okay, guys, I want to talk about the time travel method used. We have the classic H.G. Wells time machine here, a classic steampunk kind of design. One of those ones that's just, to me, is timeless. I mean, we're talking about time machine, but it's H.G. Wells. It's this design. It's timeless. Lacey, you're giggling over there, so you get to go first.
Oh, it's just adorable. It's so cute. Like, I feel like Snoopy should be driving it. It's so cute. And it looks like it was made out of, you remember those big Legos, the ones for like preschool kids, the Diplo blocks? That's what it looks like. And it's tan and orange. And if you haven't got any other thing to say about the 1970s, you can just say, well, it was tan and orange.
Well, this looks like something that would have been on one of those little machines outside of a supermarket that you put a quarter in and it goes around, you know?
Absolutely.
No. You are looking at next year's collectible popcorn bucket.
Yes!
So true. Oh, it's so cute. It's just so cute. If we're just talking about the actual time travel of it all, I mean, it's just adorable. I do love the fact that it had its own little caveats as far as like the key and being able to stay in place or, you know, be retracted back to the original, the date of origin, stuff like that. I think that was something that makes it a little bit different than most of the other time travel devices that we've seen, which is kind of fun. But it's just so darn cute.
John, it's an all-time classic design. It really is.
It's got the Infinity Gauntlet down the side of it as well. If you look,
the Infinity Stones are powering the thing.
It's influenced so many classics ever since. So yeah, I mean, it is. It's quirky and silly and funny and memorable, which is pretty much everything you want it to be. And
can I also say that the graphics that they used to make it's so 1972, 75. It reminds me of it reminds me of the sparkles and stuff they used in like Return to Witch Mountain and like the live action Disney stuff where it's like it does the little like, I mean, it's just kind of perfect little, no pun intended, but like time capsule of the time. Especially because you get to see what the research they did for the old, costuming and the, everything else. Sorry, I'm going off topic. We'll talk about costumes when you tell me we can talk about costumes.
Yeah. Kevin, I know you like your movie vehicles. Are you taking this for a spin?
So I had never seen this film before. I never saw a second of it on being repeated on television. It wasn't until you brought it up I knew that this movie existed. All these other time travel films I have seen, but for whatever reason, this one seemed, for me anyway, because keep in mind I never had HBO or pay TV. It got lost in the ether. I thought the Time Machine was going to be the one that the guys all went in for on Big Bang Theory, but that one was based off the 1960 film. The Time Machine or whatever it was. So that's what I was expecting to see. When I saw this thing, I'm like, oh, that's pretty darn cool. I want to go on that one. So I was caught off guard of how cool this thing actually is. And I almost wish that they would have bought this one and put it in their apartment instead of the other one, because this one's a lot cooler. The concept of this film is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Amazing. I love the idea. Anything Jack the Ripper tie-in as well. I love the fact that because when I was going into it, I knew that Jack the Ripper was going to be in this story or something. I like at first you're kind of like figuring out who it's going to be with all of his friends and stuff like that. And I find it genius that Jack the Ripper's like, hell, I'm going to get out of Dodge and go create havoc somewhere else. And I'd never seen the TV series. This needs a movie remake like yesterday. And, I'd like it to be gritty, rated R, and hopefully they'll pay homage to this time machine here. I love the idea. And what was interesting too is the first thing, I love the readout. You could see he goes back to November 5th, 1979. And in the back of my head, I was going like, what happened on November 5th, 1979? First of all, November 5th is Guy Fawkes Day. For those of you guys that may not know, they celebrate that in England, don't they, John?
They do indeed, yes.
But on this day, November 5th, 1979, it was a Monday, in case you're curious, by the way. The morning edition premiered on National Public Radio. And the Ayatollah Khomeini first referred to the United States as the Great Satan. And Al Capp, the cartoonist known for creating Little Abner, passed away at the age of 70. So it gives you a little idea of what our time travelers were coming in. I thought I had to look that up and share that with you guys. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
You mentioned that. I even have a little time travel trivia here too. The H.G. Wells novel, The Time Machine, was meant as a cautionary tale of social commentary. In the story, the time traveler discovers a world where the English class system has created two different sets of humans. The upper world people are childlike with low IQs, while the workers live underground and have become cannibalistic savages. The novel prescribes socialism as the cure. H.G. Wells arrives in the present on November 5th, 1979. The same time travel arrival date was used in Time Rider, The Adventures of Lynn Swan, Kevin, as well as November 15th.
Wait. You mean this movie right here?
Yeah, that one right there.
Fred Ward, an underrated Fred Ward classic right here. Imagine being a motorcycle guy being thrown into the Old West. There you go.
Yeah. And of course, November 5th, and of course, and Back to the Future, November 5th, 1955. So there you go there. The film takes place on 11/5/1893 and from November 5th through 10th, 1979. At approximately the 27-minute, 45-second mark, when George checks the newspaper to see what city he's in, the headline is about a terrorist bombing. If you were checking a genuine November 5th, 1979 newspaper, the headline would more likely would have been about the 53 Americans, one released shortly thereafter, taken hostage in Tehran, Iran the day before, a story that would dominate most news cycles for the next 443 days. So some interesting timepieces is this. Again, that's what's so fascinating about this film is its connections to Hollywood, things they did with it, and how it's just kind of found its way weaving itself through the history of Hollywood in an aspect of it. But I also want to talk, guys, about the time travel trope used in this one. And I think there's a couple of them, but the one that stood out to me is the classic someone escaping and being chased through time by somebody. We've seen this in other things. There's always somebody escaping, but to have it be two such historical figures like Jack the Ripper and H.G. Wells, and to incorporate the genius of H.G. Wells and his time machine in it, everything like, I think it's just brilliant writing, Kevin. And because this is your first time seeing it, I mean, was that something that surprised you, or were you genuinely excited, or was like, wow, I wouldn't even have thought of something like that?
Yeah, the idea is great. And, when it comes to time travel movies, a lot of time travel movies borrow from each other with the tropes and people learning from their mistakes and or changing something in the past. And this here, you just got a criminal escaping to another time to keep killing people. And, this is where you also had the Zodiac killer terrifying Northern California at the time as well. And during this time in California, even in Southern California, there was, if you count also the 60s and the 70s, there was a lot of serial killers preying on people during these times. And so Jack the Ripper kind of just continuing his torment and being known as the Ripper, I just thought was a great idea. And it was fascinating, and it was fun to kind of follow through this cat and mouse game. And Mary Steenburgen's character getting unwillingly involved in this, or not knowing what's really happening until it's almost too late.
John, to use such a infamous serial killer like Jack the Ripper in this time travel thing, I think is pure genius in this aspect.
It's really interesting. The Jack the Ripper thing is often done. It's either done very badly or very well. My wife has always said she's always interested when she sees a project that's connected with it, because so many times people get the basic stuff wrong. Because to make a better movie, they'll smudge all the facts that may have enticed people to begin with. But with something like this, it's like the best of both worlds. You take the concept of it, and you don't have to pay attention to necessarily the historic details, because you're immediately transferring that to another location. So you do get the best of both worlds, I think, on that. And I think Kevin, you were saying I think there's time for a gritty remake of it, or grittier remake. You're not going to be shocked and have palpitations, watching this movie. You're going to be entertained. It's fun with a slightly, with a slightly sinister element, but I think nowadays it would be very interesting to see somebody say, I want to remake it, and what changes they would make. It would depend on the director. God help us if M. Night Shyamalan ever gets hold of it. But you know, I can think of worse people to get hold of it. But yeah, I could see a really interesting movie inspired by it. I can see that inspired by, you know, in the credits. So yeah, it's one of those, again, we said before, it's like because it's time travel, there is a timeless quality to it. It's open to reinterpretation. You could make this movie again very easily and make it an interestingly different companion piece to it. And I would go watch it.
Yeah. Lacey, I need to ask you about the H.G. Wells of it all, because I mean, that's such an important thing. And I love the fact that he comes in, he's really overwhelmed in this situation. He says he's heard Sherlock Holmes to the police, which of course he has no idea, but that's how that's actually going to be interpreted. But what a performance. And just, he felt so fish out of water, yet he felt like he belonged. He made himself feel like he belonged too.
Yeah. I think that, if you listen to the commentary, which is on the Blu-ray, I'm not sure if it's on the DVD. Is it, Kevin?
Do I have a commentary here? Feature length commentary with Malcolm McDowell and writer-director Nicholas Meyer. Yes.
Got it. Okay. He talks about Malcolm McDowell talks about how he was originally approached to play the Jack role, and how he was like, you know, he had just come off of Caligula, and of course, you know, he was well known at that point for Clockwork Orange and a few other more dastardly characters, and so he decided that he said, you know, I'll do it, but I want to play the good guy. You know, I mean, you know, can I please play the good guy? So that was really kind of an interesting thing, because the original thought was they would get those two fellas to do the opposite roles, which I think is an interesting twist. I very much liked Malcolm McDowell's portrayal. I was fascinated with the David Warner's character, just because I'm a huge Jack the Ripper nerd. I actually I got my private investigator's license because if you want to actually go to Scotland Yard and you can prove that you're a private investigator, you can actually have like permission to get into the Black Vault, which is where they keep all of the actual like letters and all that kind of stuff, which is really interesting. And I heard about that, and then I was too late. Anyway, so hugely interested in the whole situation. I love H.G. Wells. I like all of the tales, you know, not just the Time Machine. It's one of my, I mean, time travel is so fascinating to begin with, and then putting him right in the middle of it, and then taking one of these characters that is such a notorious character. And because of the fact that Jack the Ripper just stopped doing what he did, and nobody knew, no one, like, he got away with it. Nobody knew who it was. So did he accidentally travel through time and then die on the, okay, maybe. We don't know.
Yeah, there. So very true. But I want to talk about how time travel changes things. And obviously we're talking a fictional story here, but let's talk about bringing Jack the Ripper into the modern world. Not exactly the best idea, but there is a phenomenal scene where it's David Warner playing Jack, and you have H.G. Wells sitting there, and Jack the Ripper turns on the TV, and he talks about how this is the world meant for him. Look how much we've devolved. And he talks about like just being able to walk across the street and buy a gun, the violence out there. It's like, this is the world for me. I can become the creature I was always meant to be. And that's when you think about that, when you talk about one of the most notorious serial killers of all time, and you put him in that modern world, even then, and even now, it's probably even more so, but just that thought process alone in that time travel where you awaken even a bigger beast because he's time traveled to a time when violence is a lot more just acceptable. And I mean, I hate this, but it's the truth. It's violence is a lot more desensitized, and so it's in a very intense scene, and it really kind of shows you how there are certain people who, if they could travel through history to a more modern era, how scary they could be. And Kevin, that's kind of mind warping when you think about it.
Yeah, it's touched on with the moral conundrum of owning a time machine, which HG's character touches on at the end of the film. And I'm sure that when you're thinking about when you think about it too, It's like there's the comedy version of it with Bill and Ted bringing back, one of the biggest conquerors of all time, who was bloodthirsty himself. And then, of course, you got one of the most famous people who got away with it, and it would be interesting to kind of see, like, if they did do a gritty remake and not use Jack the Ripper, or they could choose a bunch of other serial killers that, either before they got caught, changing time, or like, what about going back in time, where it might be easier to do what you need to do. It brings up all these ideas of that. But Jack the Ripper is just one of the most famous cases in the world of not getting caught and just terrorizing, everyone.
Lacey,
if they remake it and he comes forward in the future, if it's in the mid 20s or whatever, he could run for office.
It's true. Yeah.
John, I want to hit you with this one in particular, because I think this is highly interesting what they do in this. How time travel that they indicate at the end of the movie when H.G. Wells is talking about writing his future books, time travel, it's like, I hope I'm going to write a lot of fiction. And it's interesting because, again, that's one of the things that this movie does so well, is it plays on the time travel aspect affecting these people who, yes, were real life people. As a writer yourself, I mean, they have the aspect, I'm going back into my own time, but I've had all this experience. How much is that influencing these works that we are familiar with? And then as we read these works, you're thinking, wait a minute here. So I think it's an intriguing twist here.
It's the old bootstrap paradox. I mean, somebody I don't think there's probably anybody who hasn't been asked at some point what they would do if they had a time machine. And it's always a very interesting moral question. My answer to that has always been, I really don't want one. And I mean that completely honestly. Apart from the entertainment value, which I'm sure would be great, on the side of it, you are the amalgamation of every experience you've had. And if you go back and change your the stuff that you did wrong, you will be a different person, and things might be worse. I don't want to go to the future unless I know I can change it, because otherwise, that's just spoilers. So I genuinely don't ever want a time machine. I wouldn't mind going back and watching, sort of like being an observer and literally just sort of like, if I could pick some entertaining times from my past and go, oh yeah, that was, you go see that movie again or whatever like that for the, and that way. But it's why it's good drama, because everybody has a slightly different answer. Everybody has a slightly different time they would go back to, or a future they would go to, or not. So time travel is always good, and there's so many variations on it. You can have that cause and effect, or effect and cause. You can have the bootstrap paradox. You can have the multiverse side of it, which is the modern Marvel way of getting around things.
Can you explain the bootstrap paradox?
Now, the way I understand, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, the bootstrap paradox is when something that you do by going into the past was always meant to happen. The reason you are here now is because you went back in time at something and caused events to happen. So that you don't change anything, you close the loop.
Kyle
right?
Reese
I think that's the
is the dad.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Reese is the father.
Yeah. So
that's the kind of thing where it's fascinating as a drama. That's why it'll never be old in some ways, because there's so many different ways you can play with it with different characters. But it's the way this works, as you said, because it's one of those things where you have the most notorious serial killer in history, and you don't know how that story ended. So the temptation to make it up and to add a wonderful time travel side to it. And if it was remade, as again has been said, there's so much ammunition, no pun intended, now for making a really dark story about either somebody coming from the past into a future that that more befits them, or even somebody from now going back into the past and going, hey, look what I can get away with. There are countless stories. That's why TV shows do it all the time. Even the non-science fiction ones tend to do like a what if, for special editions and stuff. So yeah, we're all fascinated by that, and this one I think really dovetails quite nicely on that. I think.
Lacey,
I want someone who's like Sigourney Weaver's character from Copycat, but evil, to get a hold of a time machine, go back, and perpetrate the murders that they know are going to happen just so they can feel what it's like to actually do the murders for the people that weren't caught.
Yeah.
The people who weren't caught, like, that'd be
it's fun.
It's the anti-butterfly effect.
Yeah, it's the reverse butterfly, because
and
that actually is something we came across in what's the first one that we did with Ed Burns and the dinosaur
Sound of Thunder.
Sound of Thunder. Yeah, they literally, the goal was that they go back right at this exact moment where they know an animal is going to die so that people can big game hunt dinosaurs. But they literally step on a butterfly, and that's what causes the movie to go off the rails. So just that reverse butterfly effect where you go in and you take the position of the person who's the bad guy because he never got caught in the first place. Like, maybe that's the reason the Zodiac killer never got caught too. He did 11 murders. He was one.
It was Jack the Ripper.
He was Jack the Ripper. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. We got
exactly.
So okay, I'm sorry, real quick. I want to respond to something that John said. You said no, you wouldn't want a time machine. It's funny too because everyone talks about going back and changing history, killing Hitler, blah blah blah. To me, I'm going like, I want to go see the Doors live, or I want to go see these events. I want to go see this movie premiere I'd never seen before. I want to go visit. I want to go live life. And try not to step on too many time changing things where I change.
I want to go back in. I want to go back in time and say, don't go see Trap.
I agree with you, John, though. I would love to go back and just see things. I want to go and watch stuff. I want to see, when, it can be personal stuff. Like, you can go and see like that when your parents met or whatever. I'm just saying, like, it can be personal or it can be like,
okay. This is an interesting topic because it leads into what is the biggest thing with this movie and the true danger to all time travel. It isn't the master from Doctor Who. It isn't some maniac mad scientist. The true dangerous person to time travel is the one and only Mary Steenburgen. This woman has no respect for the laws of time travel. She follows her heart. She's like, hey, I'm just going to be like, I'm going back with H.G. Wells. I might have family members. They're just, who cares? Who cares how it's going to affect time or anything like I'm going back with H.G. Wells. Or, she's like, well, I'm going to the future. And, even though all this crazy time paradox stuff and this crazy doctor telling me all the risks that could be, I'm doing it because of love. Mary Steenburgen is the most dangerous threat to the time continuum over any person on the planet, guys.
Arnold Schwarzenegger really shouldn't have gone after Sarah Connor, really, should he? I mean, he should have been going after Mary's. Come with me if you want to live.
I Kevin, not only that, but obviously from at least this version of it, she likes to move real fast when it comes to her relationships.
Well, it was the 70s, I mean, I know it was late 70s, but this was the 70s. This is the whole free love movement, and then you've also got the fact that, H.G. Wells was very clear that he actually wrote and was, pro women's lib before it became women's lib. And he was, what was it? He said, the last article I wrote was on free love, that kind of thing. So
he was a gentleman to her.
Sure.
And that struck a chord with her because I'm sure at this time she's living through the end of disco and all the, certain, if you look back at what men were wearing back then, I'm sure she was growing a little tired of it. But she just kind of hit that chord, and or he did with her. And that was one of the things I found charming about this film is, her kind of, pushing the relationship faster than he is. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay, guys, as we get ready to close up, I just want to give us your final thoughts on Time After Time, the movie, and its relevance in time, as in our year of time travel. Kevin, I actually want you to lead off with this because it's freshest in your brain. You have the biggest impression of it because you saw it for the first time, and I think that's actually really important when it comes to this film.
Yeah, I liked it. So I bought it on DVD, and I started watching. But I was like, as I was about a half an hour into it, I paused it. I'm like, I want this digital too. So I went on iTunes and bought it for $10. So now I got a digital copy of it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the concept. I really enjoyed Malcolm McDowell's performance. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but there was a slight nod to Steve McQueen's Bullet when he's picked up by the cabbie driver and he has that supercharger car and he's going down or up and down the hills of San Francisco. And the sound that car makes is almost identical to the Mustang that Steve McQueen's has in Bullet. And I love that. I didn't know if that was done on purpose, but to me, I was just like, all right, I'm in. So thoroughly enjoyed it. Great choice for the film. And I hope someone looks at this film again and goes, you know what? I'd like to update it a little bit. I'm fine with the remake, but I'm glad we have this one.
John, what about you as far as this film and just itself and where its place in time travel is?
Yeah, I mean, same as Kevin. You know, it's one of those things. Again, I haven't seen it in a long time. I now have to go and see it. I'm gonna have to find it again to watch. It has so many things that people will like now. Still, timeless. Yes, it will feel a little bit dated with fashion and stuff, but it has all the elements in that we still like today. So it's ripe for a rewatch. It's ripe for a reworking, depending on who does it. They could mess it up totally, but there's an interesting different version remix to be done. I think there's huge potential for it. And yeah, if you're sort of talking about 10 time travel movies, it really should feature in there, definitely.
Lacey?
Yep.
Yep.
There you go. John, yep, there you go.
Yeah.
I just it's kind of the granddaddy of time travel, just in his the book and the writings and everything else. So I think that this is something that really paid close attention and they did what they did and it worked. There are so many that don't work. This one was, and I know it was of its time with the clothing and the whatever. I loved the fact that the first thing he sees is the woman wearing like clear pants, which was obviously something someone in the costume department thought like in the that eventually, I don't know how that was a thing. But yeah, I think that it was just a fantastic overall goal and they made it work.
So, guys, as we get ready to wrap up this episode of Culture Clash, one of the things that we've been talking about too is they need to remake this film, and I agree completely with this. But I have a particular actor, as we've been talking about this, as a man in mind who must be a part of this film, and I think he could probably play either H.G. Wells or Jack the Ripper. And it's also, this man is going to have a tie-in into what we're going to be talking about on the next Culture Clash. Because the man I'm thinking needs to be a part of a remake is one James McAvoy. Because, I think he could pull off either role. And that will also tie into our next edition of Culture Clash, Kevin, because we are going back to saving a movie from oblivion. And we're going to be looking at 2008's Wanted with Angelina Jolie and James McAvoy in this. So, Kevin, you can see what I did there. But I do think James McAvoy could be somebody who is capable of playing either role because he can play that demented Jackson.
I would want him to do the H.G. Wells version though, because he's getting into the villainy role a little too much for my taste, especially with the new movie he has out right now, which I'm sure he's good at it. But I could see him doing both, but I'd rather see him do the H.G. role.
Can Josh Hartnett play the other role?
There you go.
Sure. Why not?
Just saying,
I want to see.
I think he's very talented. I think that he stepped away for a minute, but some of his stuff is really, really good.
I want to see Michael Fassbender.
Ooh, that would be an interesting pairing.
But you
either one. Yeah, either part.
Yeah, but that turns the two of them into Bob Hope, and it turns into like the road movies because they've done so many movies together already.
Yeah, they have the X-Men films.
I mean, it's just maybe. I mean, don't get me wrong. Love Michael Fassbender. Awesome. I mean, if you haven't seen Shame, it's a phenomenal film.
Oh yeah,
Interesting, but yes, that will be our next Culture Clash, saved from Fandom Oblivion. Should we want it?
Nice.
So we'll see what happens there. But you have been listening to the Fandom Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I want to thank all of our amazing guests, Matt, Lacey, John. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a big show. We had a lot to talk about, but You guys all had some great insights, and it's always a pleasure to have you guys on the show. And John got hooked up with, it looks like, a couple popcorn buckets just for coming on. Your parting gift for today's episode of Culture Clash.
What's got 2 thumbs and popcorn? Cool.
Kevin, I am so glad that you enjoyed Time After Time. This was one that you hadn't seen, and I know Lacey and I were kind of really pushing to do it on this, and I'm so glad that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a fun ride, and I like too that it was looking back at 1979 California was extra fascinating for me, which I liked.
Well, guys, this has been Culture Clash here on the Fandom Podcast Network. As we wrap things up here, Lacey, where can people find you on social media?
I am Lacey Pants in all the places. I'm on all the places, Twitter or X or whatever, and Big Sky or Blue Sky and Letterboxd and Facebook. And the only one that I'm a different name is Instagram. I'm the Lacey Pants because I locked myself out of my Lacy Pants.
Matt, you have one of the greatest. Matt, you have one of the greatest names on X right now, Twitter.
Well, considering Florida is kind of a dirty word these days,
but it's still awesome.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, at Florida Fulcrum, just all one word.
Yeah,
nice.
John, I mean, obviously, you have Echo Chamber. Where all can people find you and what you're putting out there?
Yeah, the Echo Chamber is getting I'm doing some stuff with that at the moment, so it's not getting updated as much. You can't find me on Twitter anymore. I spent about 20 minutes on there last week and decided that was it for me. Sorry.
I tried to tag you. I figured that one out.
I'm so sorry about that, but it's yeah, it's so toxic there now that it just became wading through the swamp. So I'm not. So I probably by the next time I'm on here, I will have better news about where you can find me. I'm John Mosby on Facebook. I think I have Instagram somewhere. I'm on Blue Sky. So yeah, but hopefully I will be. I'm the equivalent of couch surfing at the moment when it comes to social media. But I will be back. Oh yes, I will be back.
Well, if nothing else, we're going to try to sneak him on the Fandom Podcast Network more. I just don't know if we can afford all his popcorn buckets. Kevin, you need to hold up the book a few more times. Of course, Mr. Wright, so we know we can find you all over the Fandom Podcast Network. Where can people find you?
You can find me on all of the socials at Spartan_Phoenix.
Of course, I'm Kyle. You can find me all over the Fandom Podcast Network here on the YouTube channel. Also, be sure to check out the Fandom Podcast Network podcast channel at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find me personally on Twitter at AKyleW. I refuse to call it X. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom, and you can find me on Discord at AKyleW as well. Again, thank you for all of you who have joined in the chat. All of you who have been watching on YouTube. Again, please give us a like, a subscribe, and a share. It has been an absolute pleasure, and it's so much fun talking aliens, talking time travel, talking Jack the Ripper, everything here. And for
Matt,
now,
thank you for coming on, man. I've missed you. I just want to throw at you. It's good to see you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, and John, thank you for coming on.
Yep, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I have a feeling that John's going to tie me down if I don't and hurt me if I don't include him come the first of the year when The Last of Us Season 2 comes out.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer for it, but yeah, definitely when that's yeah, absolutely. It's
we will have him back well before then. But
oh yeah.
As always, ladies and gentlemen, as we close out, we like to tell you respect each other, and most importantly, enjoy your fandom. We have done this thing, and we are out of here.